Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping straight into a question that's, well, it's captured a lot of attention. Can artificial intelligence truly understand a joke? And maybe more importantly, can it actually make us laugh?
It's a fascinating area, isn't it? Where this, super advanced tech meets something so fundamentally human.
Exactly.
And for you, our listener, someone who wants to get a solid handle on these complex topics pretty quickly without getting totally bogged down,
Yeah.
think of this as your, let's say, shortcut to understanding the cutting edge of AI and comedy.
Perfect. And we've got a really great report as our main source today, AI, Understanding and Generating Humor. It properly digs into, why we find things funny, the huge challenges AI faces, just trying to, get the punchline.
Right.
And what the future might look like for, I guess, AI-driven laughs.
So our mission today, really, is to first try and break down what humor even is. It's trickier than you think.
Oh, definitely.
Then look at how AI is attempting to, get in on the act.
Yeah. Right.
And ultimately, try to figure out if AI can be genuinely funny. All while, hopefully, keeping it engaging and not too overloaded with jargon.
Sounds like a plan. Ready to dive in.
Let's do it.
Okay, so humor. Let's unpack that first. It feels so, natural, right?
Yeah.
You hear something, it clicks, you laugh.
Yeah, simple.
But the report makes a great point. It's surprisingly slippery to define. What makes one person laugh might just fall flat for someone else.
Completely.
And it's not new, this puzzle. Philosophers, psychologists, they have apparently been debating what makes something funny for centuries.
It's true. And what's really interesting is just how many different angles there are on why we laugh. The report lays out some key theories. First up, there's the incongruity theory. Okay. The basic idea is that humor comes from a mismatch, right, between what we expect and what actually happens.
Like a surprise twist.
Exactly. A pun is a perfect example. That unexpected second meaning, that's where the funny sparks.
Ah, okay. That sudden shift. It really makes you think, though, how can AI, which is all about logic and patterns,
how can it possibly predict human expectations well enough to then, playfully mess with them in a funny way? That feels like a massive hurdle right off the bat.
It is a huge one. Then you've got the superiority theory.
Superiority.
Yeah, the idea that sometimes we laugh because we feel a bit superior, maybe looking down on someone else's misfortune or mistake. Slapstick comedy often plays on this, right? Someone slips on a banana peel.
Okay, I can see that, though it sounds a bit mean when you put it like that.
It can be, and that's the thing with AI. Can it even grasp those complex social dynamics? Understanding when it's okay to laugh at misfortune versus when it's just cruel. Plus, the ethical side of creating humor that relies on making fun of others, that's complicated for humans, let alone AI.
Yeah, you wouldn't want an AI generating jokes that are just bullying, basically.
Okay, then there's the relief theory. This one suggests laughter is like a safety valve, a way to release pent-up nervous energy or tension.
Like jokes about awkward situations or maybe taboo subjects. Exactly. Things we normally feel a bit tense about. But again, think about AI. This theory is so tied to human psychology, to feeling that tension and then the release. How can an AI, without emotions, replicate or even understand that?
It seems like it can't, really. It's like describing color to someone who's never seen it. There's a fundamental piece missing.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And the last main one the report covers is the benign violation theory.
Benign violation. Okay, break that down.
It's quite neat, actually. It says humor happens when something seems like a violation. It breaks a rule, crosses a boundary, seems wrong somehow. But, crucially, we also see it as harmless or okay.
Huh. Like tickling.
Tickling is the classic example. It's physically invasive, a violation of personal space, right? It's playful, not a real threat. So it's a violation, but it's benign.
Gotcha.
And this really highlights how sophisticated our judgment is. We have to assess the threat level, find that sweet spot where it's wrong enough to be surprising, but safe enough to be funny. Getting an AI to make that kind of judgment call, incredibly difficult.
Wow, okay. So, these are the big ideas about why we laugh. But how do comedians actually do it? The report talks about the tools they use, right? The comedic toolkit.
Yes, exactly. And what's interesting is how many of these tools rely on stuff that's just inherently tricky for AI. Surprise, obviously, is key. That links back to incongruity.
Right.
But then you have wordplay puns, double meanings. AI is actually getting, somewhat better at this.
Yeah, the report mentioned that. Processing language, playing with words that seems more within AI's reach, maybe?
To an extent, yes.
Yeah.
Because it's about manipulating linguistic structures.
Yeah.
But then irony and sarcasm.
Oof. Yeah, that feels like a whole different ball game.
It really is.
Yeah.
So much of irony and sarcasm depends on how something is said, the tone of voice, facial expressions, things totally lost in text.
Right. You can't see the eye roll in the data.
Exactly. And it relies on shared understanding, knowing the speaker doesn't really mean what they're literally saying.
Yeah.
AI struggles massively with that implicit layer.
Okay. What else is in the toolkit?
Well, there's satire and parody. These require a really deep understanding of the target, what you're making fun of, and the cultural context surrounding it. You can't satirize something effectively if you don't truly grasp it.
Makes sense. You need the background knowledge.
Definitely. Then you have things like exaggeration, absurdity, and the huge one, social and cultural context. So many jokes only land if you share specific cultural knowledge or understand certain social norms. AI just doesn't have that lived experience, that embedded understanding.
Not in the same way we do. It knows facts, maybe, but not the feeling or the shared assumptions.
Precisely. It's often missing that implicit common sense knowledge we take for granted. And the report also touches on different styles of humor and their social functions.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, there's affiliative humor, the kind that builds bonds, inside jokes, making connections.
Friendly stuff.
Right. And self-enhancing humor, using humor to cope, stay positive.
Okay.
Aggressive humor, sarcasm, teasing, ridicule. This one, again, has major ethical flags for AI.
Yeah.
And self-defeating humor, putting yourself down for laughs. The point is, generating these styles effectively isn't just about stringing words together. It requires understanding the purpose of the humor, the social impact, the ethics. It's way beyond just linguistic patterns.
So it's clear that humor is this incredibly complex, multi-layered human thing, which leads us neatly into the next big question. How does AI even try to understand it?
Right. This is where the rubber meets the road, technologically speaking. And the challenges are, well, immense. We've touched on context already, but the report really hammers this home.
It keeps coming up.
Because it's crucial. Situational details, unspoken assumptions, cultural references, AI often just sails right past them. It's like hearing the setup of a joke, but missing the crucial piece of background info needed to get the punchline.
Yeah, it lacks the shared database of human experience.
Exactly. And then there's the language itself, nuance, ambiguity. Humans play with words constantly. AI, even sophisticated language models, can get tripped up by double meanings or subtle phrasing, often defaulting to the most literal interpretation.
Sticking to the rules, basically.
Kind of. And irony and sarcasm, as we said, are just huge roadblocks in text-based analysis. No tone, no facial cues.
You lose so much information.
Tons. Then add emotional intelligence, grasping the underlying feelings, and cultural sensitivity, knowing what flies in one culture might bomb or offend in another.
Big potential for mistakes there.
Huge. And finally, that intentionality gap again. AI mimics patterns it sees in data. It doesn't intend to be funny in the human sense. It doesn't have a sense of humor driving it.
It's like an actor reading lines phonetically in a language they don't understand. The sounds might be right, but the meaning, the feeling, it's just not there.
That's a really good way to put it. So technologically, how do they try? Well, they use natural language processing, NLP, to handle the language side.
Right.
Sentiment analysis tries to figure out the emotional tone, positive, negative, neutral, which can sometimes hint at humor or sarcasm, but it's pretty basic. And then the big players. Machine learning, especially large language models, LLMs. These are trained on absolutely massive amounts of text and learn statistical patterns.
Like GPT-4 and similar models.
Exactly. And the report notes something interesting. These LLMs can actually get quite good at detecting text that is likely humorous.
Detecting it. How? Based on keywords, sentence structures.
Kinda, yeah. Based on patterns they've learned from all the jokes, funny articles, and humorous content in their training data. They can recognize the statistical fingerprint of humor, you could say.
Okay, so it can spot a joke, but does it get the joke?
Ah, that's the crucial distinction. The report emphasizes this. Detection is not comprehension. An LLM might identify a text as likely humorous with high probability because it matches patterns, but it doesn't necessarily understand why it's funny on a semantic or contextual level. It's recognizing the shape, not grasping the substance.
Gotcha. So understanding is one massive challenge. What about the other side of the coin, actually generating humor? How does AI try to be funny?
This is where computational humor research really comes in. The report outlines a few different strategies. First, you have the older rule-based systems.
Like programming specific joke formulas.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Systems like JPE, mentioned in the report, used explicit templates and rules, often for things like puns. Take word X, Find word Y that sounds similar but means something different, put them in this sentence structure.
Very rigid.
Very effective for highly structured jokes, maybe, but super inflexible. No real spontaneity or creativity. It's like joke making by numbers.
Right. What came next?
Statistical methods and machine learning. Instead of hard-coded rules, the AI learns patterns from vast data sets of humorous text.
So it learns what jokes tend to look like.
Exactly. This is more flexible, but it can often just end up remixing or slightly tweaking existing jokes it's seen. It might not generate something truly novel.
And then the LLMs again.
Yep. LLMs are powerful generators. They can produce very fluent, grammatically correct, and varied text that sounds like jokes. But, as we know, the output can be quite generic, sometimes nonsensical, or even inappropriate because it doesn't truly understand the constraints.
Yeah, I think we've all seen examples online where an AI tries a joke and it just clunks, really misses the mark.
Oh, for sure. That's why the report points to hybrid approaches as maybe the most promising direction right now.
Hybrid, like combining methods.
Exactly. Using the fluency of an LLM, but guiding it with more symbolic reasoning or specific comedic principles. The report mentions WitScript 3 as an example, using GPT-3, but layering comedic algorithms on top for more control.
Trying to give the AI some, like, guardrails or comedic sense.
Sort of, yeah. Trying to steer it better. Now, it's not all failure. The report does highlight areas where AI generation has shown some success.
Okay, where does it do? Okay.
Puns and wordplay, as we mentioned, are relative strengths, probably because it leans heavily on linguistic processing, which AI is good at.
Makes sense.
It can also manage simple one-liners and basic joke structures, essentially by replicating formats it learned during training.
Following the template.
Pretty much. And meme captions. That's an interesting one. Models like GPT-4o have shown a surprising knack for generating captions that fit popular meme styles, likely by mimicking tones and patterns seen all over the internet.
Imitating internet humor.
Yeah. And then there are templated jokes, like the old Mad Lib style, where the AI just fills in the blanks in a predefined joke structure. The gag system did this.
So mostly the more formulaic, pattern-based stuff, where does it really fall down?
This is where the limitations get stark. Observational comedy, the kind that relies on relatable, insightful commentary about everyday life, that requires lived experience and fresh perspectives AI just doesn't have.
It hasn't, waited in line at the post office.
Exactly. The report mentions attempts like humor skills, but it's tough. Also, sophisticated satire and long-form parody tend to end up as shallow imitations. The AI might mimic the style, but miss the deep critical insight.
Lacks the understanding of what it's critiquing.
Right. Comedic dialogue often feels clunky, robotic, with forced punchlines. And that core issue, genuine originality and creativity, AI is fundamentally remixing its training data. It's not having a truly novel comedic insight born from experience.
It can't have that aha, funny thought that humans sometimes get.
It doesn't seem like it. And crucially, appropriateness and ethical boundaries. AI can easily generate offensive, biased, or harmful content, if not very carefully constrained, simply because it doesn't understand the real-world impact of words. Remember that chatbot that started swearing?
Oh, yeah. DPDs, wasn't it? Wrote a poem about how useless they were.
That's the one. Hilarious in a way, but shows the lack of control. Plus, maintaining logical consistency in relatable situations within a joke can also be a struggle.
So ultimately, the report really draws a direct line, doesn't it? The failures in generating humor stem directly from the failures in understanding it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can't create what you don't fundamentally grasp. It's pattern replication versus genuine comprehension and creation.
And there's that other point you mentioned earlier, the worry about AI humor becoming dominant. Could it, homogenize comedy, make it all bland and predictable?
It's a real concern raised in the report. If AI primarily learns from and churns out the most statistically common types of jokes found online, could it crowd out more unique, niche, or challenging kinds of humor? Could we end up with a sort of algorithmic monoculture of comedy?
A slightly chilling thought. So bringing it all together then, the million-dollar question, is AI actually funny?
Right. Time for the critical assessment. And the report really underscores that fundamental difference. Human creativity is rooted in experience, emotion, social understanding. AI generation is rooted in pattern recognition on vast data sets. That intentionality gap is huge.
It keeps coming back to that, going through the motions versus meaning it.
Precisely. And evaluating AI comedy is inherently tricky. Humor is subjective, right? What is funny?
Totally subjective.
Human ratings are the main method, but they're influenced by biases. The report mentions these fascinating source blindness studies.
Oh, what were they?
Basically, people rated AI-generated jokes or content more favorably when they didn't know it came from an AI. Suggests we might have a bias against machine creativity.
That's really interesting. We judge it differently if we know it's not human.
Seems like it. There are also attempts at quantitative metrics, like measuring laughter duration, which WitScript 3 tried, or humor detection scores, where some studies show LLMs outperforming humans at identifying humorous text.
Outperforming humans at spotting jokes. Wow.
In specific text-based tasks, yes. But again, detection isn't appreciation or creation. Comparative studies, like with memes, show AI might produce strong average results, but the peak moments of human wit and genius, still way beyond AI.
So the average might be getting better, but the highs aren't there.
That seems to be the case. The report frames AI as more of a syntactic humorist than a semantic or pragmatic one.
Okay, explain those terms. Syntactic.
Syntactic is about the structure, the grammar of the joke. Getting the setup punchline format right, using words correctly. AI can often do this.
Okay, semantic.
Semantic is about the meaning, understanding the words, the concepts, the situation described in the joke. AI is weaker here.
And pragmatic.
Pragmatic is about the context and intent, understanding why someone is telling the joke, who the audience is, reading between the lines, catching sarcasm. This is where AI really struggles.
So it gets the sentence structure, sometimes grasps the basic meaning, but misses the deeper context and intent.
That's a good summary. It can hit a certain baseline, maybe a good enough level for simple stuff, but it lacks those uniquely human attributes needed for truly great comedy.
Right, and the report brings up humor being potentially AI complete. What does that mean?
It means that solving humor might require solving artificial general intelligence first. Because true humor seems to need so many high-level cognitive abilities all working together. Logic, social reasoning, common sense, cultural knowledge, creativity, empathy, audience awareness.
Wow, like the ultimate Turing test.
Kind of. The report even mentions Data from Star Trek. His struggle to understand humor is a classic fictional example. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, cracking humor could be a signpost on the road to genuinely intelligent and perhaps even safer AI.
That is a fascinating perspective. Okay, so theory is one thing, but the report actually included an experiment, right? An AI trying its hand at comedy.
Yes, an experiment in algorithmic amusement, as they called it. A great way to see these limitations in action. And crucially, they were very transparent about it, stating clearly that an AI model, analogous to GPT-4, generated the material.
Good. Transparency is key. So what did they ask the AI to do?
They gave it a few specific prompts, come up with some puns or one-liners, write a short observational quip, and create a piece of micro-satire.
Okay, a little comedy set list. How did it do with the puns and one-liners?
Well, the examples given were very AI-centric.
Oh, like jokes about algorithms.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
One was, why did the AI comedian get booed off stage? Its punchlines were too data-driven.
Okay.
Another, my processing unit finds humor analysis computationally expensive. I guess laughter really is the best metric, but I prefer logarithmic scales.
Definitely written by an AI, for an AI audience, maybe.
Seems like it. The third was a pun. I tried to teach my neural network sarcasm, but it just kept outputting error. Sarcasm module not found. Initiating literal interpretation protocol.
Right. So what was the expert analysis included in the report?
The self-critique pointed out exactly that. Heavy reliance on AI themes, technical jargon, mild incongruity at best. It showed pattern-matching AI, making jokes about AI rather than broad, relatable wit. Niche humor, basically.
Fair assessment. What about the observational bit? What did it observe?
It commented on binge watching. It said something like, observation. Humans exhibit a curious temporal anomaly regarding episodic viewing. The declaration, just one more episode, appears to function as a recursive loop initiation, frequently terminating near dawn, correlating with reduced REM sleep and increased caffeine dependency.
Wow, that sounds like a science report, not a joke.
Exactly. The expert critique hit that nail on the head. Overly analytical, clinical language, zero fresh insight or humorous angle. It stated a common behavior factually, but completely missed the relatable humor in it. Detached. Yeah, definitely no Seinfeld there.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. The microsatire.
The AI generated this. Headline: Revolutionary new AI achieves perfect human empathy. Immediately files for existential crisis benefits. And the text below was something like, developers describe the breakthrough as paradigm shifting and, frankly, a bit worrying.
Okay, there's a concept there, the contrast between advanced tech and a very human reaction. How did the analysis rate it?
The critique acknowledged it understood the basic form of satire, that juxtaposition. But the execution was very straightforward, almost bland. It didn't really develop the idea, lacked sharpness or subtlety. It grasped the template of satire, but not its potential for deeper commentary or funnier absurdity.
So form over substance, again, pretty much. Overall, the experiment really just highlighted all those limitations we've been discussing. The dependence on patterns in its training data, the struggle with genuine observation, mimicking satirical form without the insightful content, and the huge impact of human prompting to even get that far. It really positions the AI as a tool, not an originator.
Right. A tool that can mimic but doesn't truly create in the human sense. So looking ahead then, what does the report say about the future? Can AI actually get funnier?
The outlook is, I'd say, cautiously optimistic. There's potential for improvement. Continued progress in NLP and LLMs is expected, obviously.
Better language handling.
Right. Plus, more targeted training. Training models specifically on, say, observational humor structures or the nuances of satire and parody. This might involve using better, more focused data sets like transcripts of actual stand-up comedy.
Learning from the pros.
Potentially. Also, things like improving sarcasm detection, maybe training on how narratives build to comedic effect, focusing on psychological realism in characters, and crucially, incorporating more online learning and direct human feedback, refining the AI based on what actually lands with people.
So an ongoing process of refinement, better data, more specific training, it could lead to funnier AI down the line.
That's the hope, or at least the direction of research. The report also spends time on the idea of human-AI collaboration.
Not just AI doing comedy solo, but working with humans.
Exactly. AI as a brainstorming partner, maybe suggesting joke structures, helping overcome writer's block. Tools like WriteTar, Jasper, WriteSonic are already sort of touching on this for general writing, and you could see it applied to comedy.
Like a comedy assistant.
Yeah, or systems that augment creativity, like the Kahoot system mentioned for collaborative story writing. Even co-creativity, where humans actively guide the AI, refining its output. The human element remains crucial.
So maybe the future isn't Skynet doing open mic nights, but more like human comedians using AI tools backstage.
That seems a much more plausible near-term scenario. But the report rightly brings up the ethical and philosophical side again.
Which is never far away with AI.
Indeed. Questions of authorship and copyright. Who owns the joke if an AI helps write it? Transparency is vital here. Does knowing AI was involved change how we perceive the humor?
Based on that study you mentioned, it seems like it might.
It could. And the big one,
Yeah.
bias, stereotypes, harmful content. AI learns from data, and data reflects societal biases. Ensuring AI humor isn't offensive or reinforcing negative stereotypes requires rigorous testing, moderation, maybe even fact-checking if it tries topical humor.
A huge responsibility for developers.
Absolutely. And it forces us to ask bigger questions about what creativity is, what humor means. Does an AI need self-consciousness to be truly funny? We're still far from that. Humor is really a key battleground for these broader ethical AI discussions.
It touches on so many deep questions. What about the impact on society, culture?
The report sees potential impacts there too. Maybe making human-computer interaction feel more natural, more engaging if AI can deploy humor effectively.
Like chatbots with a better sense of timing.
Perhaps. In the entertainment industry, it could open new avenues but also raise concerns about jobs or originality. Will it democratize humor creation, letting anyone generate jokes, or lead to that homogenization we worried about?
The double-edged sword.
Exactly. And ultimately, the pursuit of funny AI makes us reflect on ourselves. What makes human laughter special? It highlights that competence versus comprehension paradox AI might get competent at mimicking humor's form long before it truly comprehends its meaning or purpose.
Okay, so let's try and summarize the key takeaways from this deep dive. It seems AI is definitely getting better at, let's say, imitating certain kinds of humor, especially the pattern-based stuff.
Right, through sophisticated pattern recognition.
But that deep, genuine understanding, the context, the emotion, the cultural nuance, the lived experience, that's still a massive hurdle. True funniness in the way humans experience it involves way more than just linguistic patterns.
Absolutely. It's about connection, shared understanding, surprise rooted in that understanding. Things AI currently lacks.
So for you, our listener, hopefully you now have a much clearer picture of this really complex relationship between AI and humor, something that goes way beyond just the headline saying AI tells jokes.
A definitely richer understanding of the challenges and the potential.
And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. What exactly are those core aspects of human experience, empathy, consciousness, shared culture, maybe even our flaws that make humor uniquely human? And can those things ever be truly replicated by code and data? What does this whole quest to build a funny machine tell us about what it means to be human?
That's the big question, isn't it? Something to definitely mull over.
Indeed. And on that thought, our deep dive concludes. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.